You scroll through hundreds of job descriptions, but they all sound the same. You spend so much time on every application, but it doesn't seem to matter. You send off application after application, but never hear back. You thought the interview went so well, but it's a no. You jump through all the hoops. The news keeps saying how there are all these employers that are struggling to find people to hire. So why does finding a great job have to be so hard? It doesn't seem very logical or fair. It's not. The system is broken. It's not your fault. The process most people go through to get a job is awful. But here's the good news. The system isn't very smart. In fact, it's downright dumb. It can be beaten. How? Most prospective employers and employees today are using the same old tired strategies that have been around forever. It's like professional camouflage. Everybody just blends into the crowd. But you don't have to be that way anymore. You can get traction. You can stand out from the crowd to unleash your God-given potential, to help a world in need, to do work that matters, to earn what you and your family deserve. You can do this. You're meant to do this. There are bright things on the horizon for you. This is the way. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the workshop. Get hired fast without settling, getting ignored, or losing hope. My name is Eric Woodard. I'm a high-performance career and leadership coach based out of Washington, D.C. And if you're here on this Tuesday at noon Eastern, really just wanted to acknowledge you for being here. Know how valuable your time is. Know you probably hear about 1,000 of these events. And just want to let you know that, this is one of the funnest things I get to do. We're going to spend the next hour or so just diving deep into some stuff that's going to be really useful for you. Can't wait to get to it. Now, look, if you're not here, so if you're live, you're awesome because we're going to give away some stuff. It's going to be cool. And if you're not here live, you're not quite as cool as the people who are, but you're also pretty cool. And I'm glad you're watching this. So here we go. So what I'd ask you to do, and I know we have a good crowd here today, if you would put into the chat where you're from and how long you've been on the job search. Put it in the chat. And because I also want to make sure people can hear me. I see you there, Shirley, and I see you there, Kent. So how long you've been on the job hunt and where you're from, and we're going to get going. So look, folks, being on a job hunt can feel like pounding sand, right? It can also feel like waiting on a glacier, Simon, right? From Montreal, and Lydia from Palm Desert. Sometimes it can feel like being adrift at sea, Denver and Orlando. Sometimes Kevin in Illinois can feel like wandering in a desert, Renee in Missouri, and Jennifer in Portugal. And Nicola in New York and Carlos in California. Sometimes it can feel like climbing a wall, Tanya in Georgia and Janai in Phoenix. Sometimes it can feel like falling down a well, Ryan in Clearwater. Apuvra, sometimes it can feel like you got to do a Jedi mind trick to figure this stuff out. Julie in St. Louis and Cesar and Sharifdi in Houston. Sometimes it can feel a lot like going into the arena. Sometimes Lucas in Portland, it can feel like, trying to read the signs from the sky. Sometimes it can feel like looking into an abyss. Iram from Toronto. So who is this for? If you are unsure about the direction you want your career to go, if you've been struggling to find ways to describe what you do, if you're uncertain, Andrea in Wisconsin, whether your resume is any good, Rosa in Spain or Alex in California, if you've been wrestling with how to follow up after you apply, greetings from Minneapolis, there's Peter, right? If you're tired of applying and hearing nothing back, if you've been doing interviews that seem to go great and then you get a big fat no, if you're trapped in a job you don't like and you're not sure how to escape, Luther in Florida, and especially if you're losing hope, this workshop is for you. On the other hand, if you're somebody who is just kind of super casual about your career, you're not willing to do work, you're reluctant to take responsibility for the results you've been getting, you're really just interested in finding a job to make money, you're stuck in your ways and sort of closed-minded about new things. If you're unwilling to be authentic, this probably isn't the place for you. So what you're going to learn today, how to get hired fast without settling, getting ignored, or losing hope. Hey there, Sana in Sweden, right? I'm going to offer you 4 strategies and 9 tactics that can help you do work that matters and pay what you and your family deserve. So our agenda for today, right? So look, folks, I just want to warn you, this whole workshop is going to be one long, big sales pitch. Nah, I don't have anything really to sell you today, folks. Sorry to disappoint. I'm going to give you a lot of content. So Kent says, twice I had 2 or 3 great interviews, then the job was reposted. Yeah, that sucks. Hey there, Manisha in Chicago. So our agenda for today, right? So I'm just going to tell you briefly a little bit about who I am. Hey there, Shaliva in, hello there, Shaliva, right? I'm going to give you 4 strategies. 9 tactics is going to be stuff that's different than you've heard before. And then I have an invitation for you, right? And I know some of you have actually signed up for this workshop because you've heard that we offer free coaching calls. So if you already know that's you, there's the link to book a call. We've got a little bit of time for people who already know what I'm talking about. We've got some time this afternoon and I think some time Thursday and a little bit of time next week, but we don't have a ton of slots. So if you already know you want one of those free coaching calls, make sure you go ahead and book it. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later in the call. And then we're going to do some Q&A. So without any further ado, let's get moving. Make sure you have something to write with and make sure that, you're buckled in because we're going to go pretty fast. And if you have questions, make sure you put them in the chat. And if we don't get to questions during the course of the workshop, we'll get to them at the end. So who is this guy and why does he think he can help me find a job? Well, look, folks, I don't know if I can help you find a job. I will say me and my colleagues have helped a lot of people from a lot of industries at a lot of levels in a lot of places find a lot of jobs. I grew up overseas. I grew up in Asia. I didn't come to the States till I was 17. And I had a really, really hard time, right? I transferred college 7 times. This is me in the Midwest wondering why it's so damn cold. After transferring college 7 times, I wound up as a scuba instructor on Guam. And those of you who know where Guam is, it's a little tiny island in the Pacific. It's where America's day begins. And it was great. And I was underwater with the fish and it was beautiful and I was having fun. And I was in my early 20s and my brain got really spongy. And I thought, okay, I got to sort of pull it together. What would be the most prestigious job I could apply for? Because my career was sort of like non-existent at that point other than like spending a lot of time underwater. And I thought, well, that must be something like the White House. So I took out a piece of paper and I wrote a cover letter and it was a Dear Mr. President. Usually, this is like the world's worst cover letter. I know because I still have a copy of it. And I mailed that off to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I'm like, well, that was a great way to waste an afternoon. I'm sure I'll never hear from those guys. But about a month later, I was riding past the Guam post office and the guy came out. He's like, Eric, you got an envelope. Oh, it's on White House stationery. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. I opened it up and it was an internship application. Now, I didn't know what the hell an internship was, but I was really good at filling out applications because I transferred college so many times. So I filled that out, sent it in. I'm like, well, that's cool. I'm never going to hear back from them, but at least I still have that cool envelope, which I think I may even still have. But one thing led to another, and I got curious, and I applied to some grad schools. I got into one here in Washington, D.C., and I landed with like a big bushy haircut and like a backpack and was dumpster diving for furniture. And one day I was out, I bought some running shoes and was out running past the White House. And I thought, those White House bastards, they never even bothered to let me know about that internship thing. And that kind of made me angry. So I found a payphone, put in a quarter, and called them out. And I said, hey, you bastards, what about that internship thing? And they're like, is this Eric from Guam? I'm like, yeah, but I'm in DC now. They're like, man, we've been trying to get in touch with you. You're supposed to start in the First Lady's office on Monday. And I said, well, that's interesting. So I went and got a haircut, bought a suit, and I showed up. Now, look, my friends, I know we've got a lot of politics going on in the United States right now. I don't know if your politics match mine. And if they don't, please forgive me. This is going to tell you how old I am. This was back during the Clinton administration. And I went to work for Hillary Rodham Clinton. She was a great boss. And I wound up working in Hillary Land and eventually got hired on her staff and spent the entire second part of the Clinton administration in the White House on her team in Hillary Land. Wound up following her to the U.S. Senate, where I was there all 8 years. And then I wound up at the U.S. State Department, where I did UNESCO stuff. And eventually I wound up at the Smithsonian Institution, where I directed all the internships and fellowships. And all during this time, both in my own career and helping people at all levels, right? Like early professionals, mid-career professionals, later professionals, all sorts of different industries, science and diplomats and tech people and business people, salespeople, you name it, right? I would see the same movie over and over, right? Where people had trouble finding jobs. And so now I give a lot of talks. I do a lot of coaching. I've written a bunch of books. I have so many cool pieces of paper, right? That would blow your mind with my certifications and my degrees. Hey there, V in Brentwood, right? I have glowing testimonials, and you don't care about any about that. Because what you care about is, can I help you? I don't know. Maybe, probably. Let's find out. So again, take some notes because I'm about to offer you 4 strategies that I suspect are going to be very different than things you've heard before, especially those of you who've been on a long job search. So here we go. So put this in the chat if you would. Answer this question. What's a good resume about? Put it in the chat and let's see if anybody gets the right answer, right? And there's a little bit of a delay between the time I ask questions and people actually chime in. So if you would, what's a good resume about? Put it in the chat if you would, please. Let's see if anybody gets it right. So what's a good resume about? Let's see if anybody gets it right. Who's brave? Who's brave? So Renee says, how you match the job description. Luther says accomplishments. Okay. Yola says keywords. Okay. Denver says getting past screeners. Okay. I haven't seen the right answer. Ooh, Simin says sell me. Okay. Experience education. Have not seen the right answer yet. Right? A summary of your experience and your accomplishments. Okay. Tanya says skills. Still have not seen the right answer. Okay. And guys, if you get the right answer, I have giveaways. So you're going to want to make sure you give it a shot. Sabrina says achievements, solve problems. Okay. I still haven't seen the right answer. Okay, folks. And I acknowledge everybody who's chimed in. So what a lot of you are saying is a good resume is about you, right? Jillian says brag book, being a good fit, right? Still haven't seen the right. Okay. Christian, I like what you're saying about stories. Okay. Daniela says fitness the job. Still haven't seen the right answer. Renee says no. Okay. A lot of you are saying you. Okay. Here's the right answer. A good resume is not about you. A good resume is about them. A good resume is about the person or organization you're sending it to. Some of you are proceeding and you've got a resume that's got that big paragraph at the top talking all about you. Right. And when I say resume, I'm talking your cover letter, your follow-up, your interviews, all that stuff. And it's all about me. And yet, those of us who are seasoned professionals know when we move to the working world, it's not about us. It's about them. It's about the client, the constituent, the customer, the board member, maybe the shareholder, but it's definitely not about us. And it's no wonder that we think a good resume is about us because probably the first resume we ever put together was from school. And in school, it is about us. It's our cubby. It's our report card. It's our trophy. It's our transcript. It's our grade. And yet when we move to the working world, it's not about us anymore. Okay. So if you get nothing else from this workshop, right? If you watch the first 5 minutes of this workshop and you bail to go trim your bonsai tree or whatever, right? Or if you're watching this on replay and you're watching me at 1.7 speed, and I always like to talk really fast like this. So the people who are watching me really fast, that's what I did that for. So the people who are watching me on like fast, like I just freaked them out. Okay. So many job seekers think that an application's about them. It's not. An application is about the person or organization you're sending it to. Hey there, it says, it looks like Kevin Davis booked a call. Hey, Kevin, we really look forward to talking to you. That's great, right? Employers are focused on themselves, okay? And so the better way is to make the application about them, about the person or organization you're sending it to. Okay. All right. We're already on to strategy number 2. If I went into a public library, or any library for that matter, and I saw a bunch of storybooks on a shelf, and I looked at the front cover of those storybooks, there'd be a bunch of words. What would we call the words on the front cover of those storybooks? Okay, what would we call the words on the front cover of the storybooks? Right? If we looked at the words there, what do we call those words in English? Let's see if anybody gets it right. Who's going to be first? All right. Who's going to be first to get this right? Title, Luther Walker's. It's the first one I see. Luther, I'm going to send you a free course about how to make your LinkedIn profile awesome. Okay. So Ann and Jessa are helping us. Ann, if you would please note, Luther Walker gets a free course about how to make his LinkedIn profile awesome, right? So Lydia, Alexandra, Apuva, Marie, Tanya. Yeah, you're welcome, Luther, right? That's right. Titles. Now, isn't it interesting that that's the same term we use to label people in the workplace, which tells me strategy number 2, stories. Okay, here's another question, right? Here's another question. Hey, Jennifer, you just booked a coaching call. Way to go. Nice job. Okay. So here's another question for you. What percent of human decision making do you think is emotional and what percent is logical? Put it in the chat. Okay. So is it like 50-50, 60-40, right? Is it 70-30? What percent's emotional and what percent's logical? Put it in the chat and let's see who gets it right. Maybe somebody will get another giveaway. You never know. Okay. So I see a bunch of answers here, right? I see Kevin says 60-40. Renee says 90-10. Nicola says 70-30. Apruva says 80-20. Simin says 80-20. I haven't seen the right answer yet, right? Maria says 80-20, right? So most people are saying emotional is more, right? Sonia says 70-30. I haven't seen the right answer yet. Okay. Alex says it's 30-80, right? Right. 80-20 says Tanya. Still haven't seen the right answer. Okay. A lot of people. So here's the answer. Oh, Denver, you're close, right? I'm going to give away the answer. Here we go. It's 100% emotional. It's 100% emotional. And the reason we know that human decision-making is 100% emotional is because when somebody gets their limbic system damaged, like they're fine. There you go, Denver. Denver Martin was the first one I see. Okay. So we're going to send Denver that course about making his LinkedIn profile awesome, right? Aggie just booked a call. Way to go, Aggie. Way to book a call. Nice job. Okay. So Denver, you're getting a free course about how to make your LinkedIn profile awesome. Okay. It's 100% emotional. Right? When you guys got on this call, you decided whether you liked me, whether I might know what I'm talking about, like very quickly. Oh, Alessa, did you say that earlier? I'm sorry, Alessa, we missed, or Alessandra. So Alessandra Fontana, you're getting the LinkedIn course too. Sorry, we missed you. So I apologize. Right? So Alessandra Fontana is getting the LinkedIn course. Okay. So and Luther's, yeah. Okay. So I'll take your word for it. Okay. But human decision-making is 100% emotional, right? 100% emotional. And so those of you who have been like, employers would say, we make data-driven decisions. Yeah, they're full of it, right? Nobody does, right? Human decision, like if somebody loses their capacity for emotion, they're fine, except they can't make a single decision. And that's the debilitating part. Okay. Now we'll later rationalize the original emotional decision with logic. That's what you're doing now on this course, right? You may already made a decision whether you liked me or thought I knew what I was talking about. Now you're just hearing stuff to try and rationalize. Does this guy know what he's talking about? We'll see, right? But human decision making is 100% emotional. And so the reason you want to have stories in your resume, and Maya Angelou is often attributed with the quote, but people will remember how you made them feel. And that's what stories do. Right? You don't want to seek out your job based on facts. Like metrics are fine. You're welcome, Alexandra, right? Metrics are fine. Hey, Nicole just booked a coaching call. Way to go, Nicole, right? Like metrics are fine, but like stories are so much more powerful because stories are how we convey commotion, right? Now I always get in trouble when I ask, how many of you remember your phone number when you were 5? There's always a couple like mutants, awesome, smart people that say, I remember. Most of you wouldn't remember, but you probably remember sort of how you felt on your 5th birthday, right? We can remember in our active logical brain, like, I think it's like 40 bits of information a second we can process. We can process 20 million bits a second, right? With our emotional brain. So it's orders of magnitude more. So if you don't have story in your stuff, and what I mean by your stuff is your resume, your cover letter, your follow-up, you're really leaving a lot on the table. Okay. So perfect example. Notice I'm about to tell a story. One time I was receiving a bunch of applications and I was going through them, and there was this one woman, Maggie. And Maggie had wrote about how the summer before she was in a terrible car accident and her arm had been severed. Oh, poor Maggie, right? So I was like, that's quite a story. So we accepted Maggie to the program, and I'm getting ready for the first day. I'm, worrying if she's going to have accessibility issues, like how she's going to be able to type with one arm, all that kind of stuff. She walks in the first day. 2 arms. Now it was bandaged from where it had been partially severed and reattached, and she was in physical therapy, and she was going to be okay. Was I upset? Of course not. I was so happy Maggie had both her arms. And I remember that story to this day. Okay. So if you're not telling stories, it's a real opportunity. Okay. On to strategy number 3. Who could tell me who this guy is? I'll give you a hint. He comes from Idaho. He comes from Idaho. His favorite animal, I think, is a liger. I could have that wrong. I think I might have that wrong. Anyway, who is this guy? Who's going to know? Put it in the chat, please. Put it in the chat, please. Who is this person? Kevin! Kevin Danis nails it with Napoleon Dynamite. Kevin, you're getting the free course on LinkedIn. Way to go, Kevin. Kevin Davis gets a free course about how to make Kevin's LinkedIn profile awesome, right? This is Napoleon Dynamite. Exactly. Now, I'll tell you, if you haven't seen this movie, first of all, stop your job search and go watch this movie. Come on, folks. We're trying to create a society here. And I don't want to spoil it for you. In this particular scene in the movie, Napoleon is a high school kid. And Napoleon, there you go, Kent. Go Pedro, right? Kevin sort of beats to his own drum, right? Like Napoleon sort of beats to his own drum. And he finds himself on stage at his high school. He's managed to get a cassette tape up to the sound booth, but otherwise he's on stage and he's got to do some sort of performance. And the entire student body's there watching. The music starts to play and Napoleon's standing there. And he proceeds to do the craziest damn dance you've ever seen. I mean, it is wild, folks. I mean, he metaphorically opens the kimono. It is crazy. The music stops. He's sort of panting and like really sweaty. And all of his classmates are like this. And then they burst into applause. And the reason it works is because it's so authentic. Jamie Kern-Lena, the founder of It Cosmetics, says, everybody's a good dancer if they commit fully. And this brings us to strategy number 3, authenticity. Some of you are trying to, be proficient in Microsoft Office. Stop. People are going to hire you because of who you are, not in spite of it. Let me ask you, who do humans hire? I'm not even going to wait for you to answer. I'm going to answer for you. Humans hire humans. Humans don't hire robots. Robots don't hire humans. Now, collectively, I can hear many of you thinking, but what about ATS? What about the algorithm, Eric? What about that? I hear you. It sounds like you bought into the story that there's some almighty Skynet matrix thing that is determining who gets to pass through and who doesn't. Let me assure you, that is not the case. There is no one ATS. There are some organizations that use software to sort their applications. And at the end of the day, it's humans. It's humans that hire humans, right? Apuvra just booked a free coaching call. Way to go, Apuvra, right? So like it's humans that hire humans. Some of you are busy hiding your age on your resume, right? All of a sudden, when we get to your education, the graduation dates disappear. Or even more fun, you've got 30 years experience, but somebody has told you, you really only need to put 15 years experience. I can almost bet whoever told you that has about 15 years experience, right? Don't buy into this. People are going to hire you because of who you are, not in spite of it. In an increasingly automated world, the opportunity is to be more human, not less. And look, folks, those of you who've been hiding your age and trying to trick the ATS and all that kind of stuff, how's that been going? I don't even need you to tell me. Okay. Be human, be relatable. Perfect example. One time I was coaching Nina and we were going over her resume and I said, well, Nina, what do you like to do for fun? And she's like, well, Eric, I collect pens. And I'm like, well, that's super effing weird. We got to put that on there. She's like, no. I could never do that. So I argue with Nina for about a half hour. Finally, she, consents and puts it on her resume. I hear from her a month later. She went in for the interview. They talked about her pen collection for 30 minutes and she got the offer. I can't tell you how often this happens with my clients, right? Recently, or I guess it was last fall, we had somebody who put on her resume, 2 truths and a lie. Brilliant. I stole it. Now it's on mine. Okay. You can steal it and put it on yours. 2 truths and a lie. She got 2 interviews just from doing that. And the reason we know is they told her. That's the reason they interviewed her. So it was awesome. Okay. Authenticity, folks. Here we go. Authenticity is your superpower. Okay. So Abe Lincoln says, give me 6 hours to cut down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. And this brings us to the next strategy, which is consistency, right? Systems. There's nothing wrong with you, Renee and Kevin and Kent, right? There's nothing wrong with you. right? There's nothing, you don't have mustard on your shirt. Like you've been having trouble getting, whoever you are, you've been having trouble getting traction in your job search. I guarantee you there's nothing wrong with you. The results you're currently getting in your job search are perfectly attuned to your current system. So if you want different results, the opportunity is to have a different system, right? And you can spend time on your own figuring that out. Hey, Sana just booked a free coaching call. Way to go, Sana. Look forward to talking to you, right? Like you can spend the time and money to figure out that system, or you could just, like get a coach and like we'll help you with your system, right? Because then we know there's settings that are going to work for you. And even if we don't know your exact settings, we know that they exist. Some of you, right, have been working really hard instead of working smart, right? You've been working on quantity before you've up leveled your quality, right? You haven't been iterating. There is no such thing as a failed experiment, right? The way you book a coaching call, it's that link in the slideshow, and we'll throw up. Yeah, thanks, Ann and Jess, appreciate that. Okay, some of you have been guiding your job search like this. You've been using this, right? And it's like a sticky gear shift and a button, and like I gotta hand it to you. You have done wonders with this. And you're welcome, V. And what you don't realize is like the part of the reason you're having trouble in your job search is there's a whole other control room that you don't even know about. Right? There's gear, there's all sorts of levers and stuff. And you've been doing great with this, but can you imagine if you had this, how much easier would your job search be? A whole lot easier. So again, strategy number 4 is you want to make sure that you're using all the systems available. And maybe instead of trying to figure that out on your own over months and years, you just hire somebody who knows this stuff and we figure it out for you. Okay. So how do you put this all to work? I want to show you an example. Let's show, Angel here in a second, right? Angel was somebody who came to this workshop, put these, these strategies into play, signed up for a free coaching call, wound up working with us more formally, and she got great results. Let's show Angel now, please. In the time we've got left, I'm curious, especially if there's somebody we haven't heard from yet. They've had a win, a loss. Angel, I got to ask you, what do we know, if anything? What do we know?
I got the job! Yay!
Whoa!
The offer. I'm moving in a week. Yeah, it's crazy. And I know when we first met, you're like, oh, like let's get something by your birthday. And my birthday is in 4 days, so I was able to do it. Yay!
And I just want to acknowledge you. Like you dove in, you did it, you did the work.
Thank you.
Way to go.
Have been possible without like signing up for this program, truly. I think it made the difference for me.
So good, Angel.
Yeah.
Really happy for you.
Yeah.
Super awesome. Congratulations to you. Yeah. I could watch that all day, man. That warms my heart, right? This job stuff doesn't have to be that hard, folks. Okay, so how do you put all of this together? Here we go. 9 tactics. Buckle up. Yeah, that's right. Congratulations, Angel. 9 tactics. We're going to go pretty fast, so hang on to your hat. Okay, so folks, especially if you've been like watching the replay or you've been watching this live and you've been like, like on your Peloton or something, like pay attention because we may give away some stuff here because a lot of people get this right. Okay, so let's say there's a lake and in the middle of the lake, someone's drowning. Now they're surrounded by other people in little boats. Hey, Kent, we look forward to talking to you, right? They're surrounded by other people in little boats. Okay. So somebody's in the middle of the lake and they're surrounded by other people in little boats. If that was a job search, who's the person drowning? Put it in the chat if you would, please. So somebody's in the middle of the lake drowning and they're surrounded by other people in little boats. If that was a job search, who's the person drowning? Let's see who's going to get it right first. Let's see who's going to get a free course, right? Kevin says it's me. No, Kevin, it's not the right answer. And I know you already had the LinkedIn course, right? So Apruva says it's me. I hear that, right? Tanya says, yep. Renee says it's the interviewee. I see you, Lydia. Yeah, I can feel like it's you. I hear that, right? In a job search. Oh, V, come. V's got the right answer. Okay, so we're going to send V, right? Free LinkedIn course. Let's send one to Apruva too, right? And let's also send one to Nicola, right? First 3, right? First 3 ones, right? A lot of us think that we're the ones drowning when really it's the employer. Christian Ruiz, we're going to send you one too. Okay. Right. Free LinkedIn courses for all those guys, if we could please. Okay. So like a lot of us feel like we're the one drowning when we're on the job search. And that's not accurate. It's the employer. We're the one in the boat. And what happens is, yeah, Renee, you know stuff. You're just, this is just, it's just using a different system, okay? Like we're the ones in the boat. Yet many of us act like we're the ones in the water drowning because we've got bills and maybe we have family members and maybe we're worried about our age or maybe we feel like we got mustard on our shirt. So we roll up to those employers who are actually the ones drowning in the water and we say, I'm the best one. Pick me, pick me. And the employer, even though they're drowning, they may be like, whoa. Like, whoa, I don't know. I need help, but not from that person, right? And where the opportunity is to row up and to have this kind of energy. Hey, Daniela, Christian, right? Hey, like your employer, you're drowning. That's clear. And the reason we know you are is we saw your job announcement. Let's have a conversation to see how it might be possible for you to get out of the water. And what's important here is not that Cherie or Denver or Danielle or Christian or Renee or Kent or the one that pulls you out of the water. What's important here is you don't drown and die. That's the kind of energy you want to have. You want to come from a place of service. So this brings us to tactic number 1, mindset, right? Most people are saying, I hope you pick me, or this is why I think I'd be really good for you. Stop doing that, right? They'd be lucky to get you. You want to apply from a place of service everywhere. Right? And those of you who are like, well, I'm just trying to sell myself. Don't do that. Right? We've gone over this historically, right? Selling people is weird. Buying people is even weirder. Don't do that. People don't want to be sold. They want to be served. They want to be seen, heard, and understood. Okay? So this isn't about selling yourself. This isn't about tricking people by hiding stuff. This is about service. Okay, here we go. Tactic number 2. Some of you have seen the show Deadliest Catch, right? Where there's this Alaskan fishing boat and there's these fishermen on the Bering Sea and it's usually really dangerous and slippery and icy. And what they do to catch crabs is that they put these big steel cages down on the ocean floor with a little bit of bait. And all of a sudden the crabs come along and they're like, oh, free lunch. And crab number 1 goes in and then his buddy Charlie comes in and then Sally says, oh, Sally wants to join. More and more crabs join. Eventually the bait is gone pretty quickly and more snow crabs join. Now here's the interesting part. Whenever one of those crabs decides, you know what, guys, I'm out of here, and that crab tries to leave, the other crabs will pull them back in. They'll even pull off one of their crab legs. They'll even do a crab murder. Like, what is that? Crab slaughter? I'm not sure, but they'll do it, right? Because crabs instinctively like to be with other crabs to the extent that they will all stay in that cage until it becomes dinner time and they get pulled up. Hey, Carlos Enriquez just scheduled a complimentary coaching call. Way to go, Carlos, right? They all become dinner. And this brings us to tactic number 2, which is your environment. Some of you are thinking, you know what? The reason I'm having trouble in my job search is because I'm lazy or I procrastinate or my last boss was really mean to me. And look, I don't want to dishonor any of that. And I just want to tell you that that's nothing compared to your environment. Your environment eats all that stuff for lunch. And when I say your environment, I'm talking about where you do your job search, like the physical place where you sit and do it. Right? The people you're hanging out with. Some of you are familiar with the idea of reference groups, where the average weight, income, education, all that stuff of the five people we hang out with most, right? You want to really be intentional. If you've got people or influences in your life, the media you consume, right? Whatever it is, books you read, it could be somebody who lived 100 years ago. It doesn't matter, right? If you've got influences dragging you down, man, that's like you don't want that, right? You want to optimize your environment. It's one of the things we do when we coach people. Okay. So here we go on to the next tactic. Hey, why Quack just signed up for a complimentary coaching call. Way to go. Why? Okay. It's hard to hit a blurry target. Sometimes I'll talk to prospective clients, right, on coaching calls, and I'll say, hey, how much money do you want to make? And they'll be like, I don't know, anywhere from 50 to 150,000. I'm like, okay, well, how much, what do you want to do? Well, I want to help people. I'm like, that's beautiful. And that's super vague. Like right now, if I say red, all of you are instantly more aware of the color red than you were like 5 seconds ago, just because I said red, just because your brain, because it heard the word red, is now looking for the word red. This is called the reticular activating system, right? You go and buy a new car and you're like, nobody's got this car. And then you drive off the lot and you see the car 5 times. Our brain will literally find what we tell it to look for. Bruce Lee said, be careful what you tell yourself because your body's listening. And he's right. right? You want to have the map before you go into the forest. And if you don't have clarity about how you're equipped to help the world, how can an employer know that? How can your brain even see it? You will literally be blind to it. So you want to have clarity, right? There's a reason when race car drivers drive 500 miles in a circle that they don't look at the outer wall. It's because the car is going to tend to go where they look. So if depending on where you're looking, that's where or maybe you don't have any vision of all, right? There's the proverb like, where there is no vision, the people perish, right? You don't want to perish in your job search. You want to have crystal clear vision that's really specific on how you're going to help the world. Okay, here we go. Like, we may be giving another giveaway if somebody gets this one right. Here we go. So if I went to a store and I bought this thing, what would I be buying? Put it in the chat if you would, please. Okay, if I went to a store and I bought one of these things, what would I be buying? Let's see if anybody gets it right. Right? What would I be buying if I went to, I think they only sell these. Okay, so Nicola says a tool, V says a solution, right? Tanya says a drill, power drill tool, says Sana. Maria says drill. I haven't seen the right answer yet. Alex says tool. What would I actually be buying? Y says a battery because this one doesn't have one, right? Cherise says a drill. Tanya says a drill. I haven't seen the right. Yeah, it does need a battery, Carlos. You're right, right? You might be buying Ryobi, says Luther, right? A problem-solving thing, says Sana. I haven't seen the right answer yet. Okay, Renee says help. So here's the thing, folks. What I'd actually be buying is a hole, right? I don't need this sitting around my house. What I actually need is a hole. Okay. And actually, to tell you the truth, I actually don't even need a hole, right? I don't need my walls full of holes. What I actually need is a place to put the hook. Yeah, Thomas Chamberlain. There it is. Let's send Thomas one of those LinkedIn courses, right? Thomas was the first one I see, right? Right. So I actually need a place to put the hook. And I actually don't need my walls full of hooks because I might gash my arm open and walk around my house with a bunch of hooks coming out of the walls. What I actually need is a place to hang the picture of my family. And actually, I didn't even need that. What I actually want is the feeling I get when I look at the picture of my beautiful, smart family that's hanging on the hook that's in the hole that's made by the drill. Okay. And this brings us to tactic number 4, which is give them safety. Yeah, security. That's right, Zabrina. That's right, Zabrina. That's right. Hey, let's send Zabrina. Let's send Zabrina that LinkedIn course, right? I like that, Zabrina. You're absolutely right. You want to give them security, right? You want to give them safety. Right? You want to make them feel seen, heard, and understood. You want to, that potential employer, you want to let them know that you understand what keeps them up at night when they're trying to go to sleep, when they stare at the ceiling. Do you see how this is working at a significantly, substantially different level than trying to hide our age and trick ATS systems and sell ourselves? This is how you get hired, my friends, right? We're just working at a different level than the competition. This is how you get hired. Okay. What keeps them up at night? Right. So a lot of people are just focusing on themselves, right? They're like, whoa, I have many years experience and this is why I think I'd be good for you. That's just a hot dumpster fire right there. Like, don't do that. Right. And even if you're focused on them, some people are focused on the drill. And the opportunity is to focus on the thing that really makes them feel seen, heard, and understood. Sometimes what happens is when people do this workshop, I'll do a coaching call with them and they wind up saying, I want to do this on my own. And they come back 6 months later and they'll say, but Eric, I did everything you said. I'm making it about them. And we look at their stuff and what they're talking about is the drill, right? And that's why clients that work with us, it's great because they don't spend time talking about the drill because we're really good at figuring out what's going to make that employer feel seen, heard, and understood. Total game changer because most of your competition isn't even thinking about this, right? Isn't that fun? So exciting. Okay, how can you make them feel seen, heard, and understood? All right, on to tactic number 5. So, folks, this is a copy my resume, and I will disclose right now that resumes are stupid. They're the least bad way that we've come up with since Roman times to tell potential employers about stuff. Okay, and we've already established that a good resume is about them, but this brings us to tactic number 5, which is our paper. And when I say paper, I'm talking about resumes and cover letters, right? The last thing you want to do is follow best practices when it comes to your resume, right? Some of you may be using the software called Teal. Nothing against the good folks at Teal, but I can spot a Teal resume about 19 miles away, right? You don't want your stuff to look like everybody else, right? If you're trying to show them that you're exceptional, then show them that, right? And the last thing you want to do is tell them anything on your resume. If you've got a lot of blocks of text on your resume talking about, well, let me tell you all about myself. No wonder, right? No wonder you're having trouble, right? It's a communication piece. It's a communication piece that you can use to show them what's going on. All right. Communicate with them in a way that they cannot ignore. For instance, does your resume have hyperlinks? Mine does. Now, are they going to click those things? I don't know. I don't even care, but it shows them that I know how to use the interwebs. Okay. All right. On to tactic number 6. Here we go. If a job application is submitted, but there is no follow-up, does it even make a sound? Sabrina, does it even make a sound? I would humbly suggest that it doesn't. Right? So this brings us to tactic number 6, which is follow-up. Now, some of you are like, but Eric, I follow up right after the interview. I send a thank you note. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about following up after you apply. And some of you are like, but Eric, I don't even know who to follow up with. Right? Hey, Luther just booked a complimentary coaching call. Luther, I'm looking forward to talking to you. Okay? Right? So no description on resume. Yeah, Santa, especially if that description's about you. Maybe you want to put a description about them. Possibly. Actually, we've had clients do that and it works super well, right? So you want to follow up from a place of service, right? And for those of you who are like, but I don't have the contact info, there are ways. Okay, there are ways, right? I actually have a little mini course called how to find anybody's contact info. It's not that hard, right? It's not that hard. And you know what, Santa? We're going to send Santa that course, right? Santa Britrell, like how to find anybody's contact info. We're going to send her that little mini course. Christian says, well, how to follow up after rejection in which they said you were great, but they went with more experience. You know what? We're going to send Christian Ruiz that course too about how to find anybody's contact info. Yeah, thanks, Ann and Jessa. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. That's right, Kevin. That's right. You bet. You follow up regardless, right? Because you can find people's contact info. And let me give you a hint. When you do follow up, okay, and even if you can't find the exact person, you're going to be able to get pretty close. But when you do follow up, you're not going to say just wanted to follow up, just wanted to check in, because that's all about me. Okay, and when it comes to rejection, Christian, right? The opportunity is like, because there's a lot that goes into that. Actually, Christian, you're going to be the first question we answer at the Q&A. I want to come back to this because I have a lot to say about this, right? Some of you are like, I don't want to follow up because that's pushy. But that would be like you being in the boat and you seeing somebody floating face down in the water and you're like, hey, buddy, are you okay? And they're motionless. And you wouldn't be like, golly, I don't want to be pushy, right? No, you'd jump in the water, you'd swim over, you'd flip them over, you'd start doing mouth to mouth. And if all of a sudden they came to and they were like, lady, I'm snorkeling, you'd be like, my bad, right? But you'd be willing to offend in the name of service. And that's what we want to do in our job search. Remember, they're the ones drowning. You'd be willing to interrupt somebody's snorkeling on the off chance that they were drowning and you wanted to save them, right? I already know the answer. Right? Well, I follow up after the rejection interview, but not after you apply. Well, there you go. New opportunity for you. What do you do when they ghost you? It's a great question, Julian. And one of the things that we do, well, we're going to say that is question number 2. So I like the newscast, there could be wild dinosaurs loose. Tune in at 5. Okay. So we're almost done here. So we'll get to both of those questions, right? Remember, you want to show them that you're somebody who doesn't back down, right? A great example is a guy named Ryan Serhant. He wrote a book called Sell It Like Serhant. He had a reality TV show. He's a real estate agent in New York. And Ryan writes that he prides himself on being responsive in email, except when somebody applies to his company. And he invariably gets a message that's like, hey, thank you. He intentionally doesn't answer. If the person writes again, so this would be like ghosting, they write again, he sends them a really discouraging message, kind of like, right? And it's only if they email a third time that he says, okay, why don't you come in and let's talk, right? People are going to believe what you show them, not what you tell them, right? A great tradition in Judaism, right? I'm not Jewish, but if I wanted to become Jewish, hey, Nicola just booked a call. Way to go, Nicola, right? If I wanted to become Jewish and I went to the rabbi, and we'll talk about age discrimination, Lydia. We'll add that to our list of questions. Thanks, Ann and Jessa, right? If I wanted to become Jewish, I would knock on the rabbi's door and she would open it and I'd be like, I'd like to convert to Judaism. She'd be like, can't do it. Too hard. Sorry, close the door. I'd have to knock again and she'd open the door and she'd be like, hey, I love you and can't do it. Too hard. I'd have to knock 3 times before finally she's like, okay, why don't you come in? Right? The rule of 3. This shows up everywhere, right? Don't give up until you've reached out 3 times. And every time you reach out, you make it about them, not you. Okay. Show them, don't tell. All right, guys, we're in the final stretch. This is tactic number 7. And again, this is one of these big ones, right? This is one of these big ones. If I went to all of you and I said, okay, folks, if we went to your Google contacts or your Apple contacts and we checked to see, let's say you had 1,000 contacts, right? And I asked Nicola or Lydia or William, I said, hey, how many of your contacts know you're open on a job search, right? You guys might be like, well, quite a few. And I'd be like, well, how many out of 1,000? Well, maybe 300. I'd be like, okay, how do they know? Well, I posted on LinkedIn a month ago and I had a post there. So I'd say, so those 300 people would have had to have gone to LinkedIn that day, had to go to your post. And not only that, they would have still had to remember or assume that you're still on the job search. Right? And this is where people would get real sort of sheepish, right? Right? So you ever been to the Academy Awards, right? Where the actor wins the big prize and they get up there and they say, I want to thank this. They say, I got nobody to thank. And it's really awkward, right? And they start playing the music and it's no, right? The person gets up there and they got to thank this person and this person, this person, this person. When people do great things, we do it with others. And this brings us to networking. There are people that know your excellence firsthand and they don't even know you're on a job search. Again, right? If you've been watching the replay, I'm not going to do the speed up trick because that'll just freak you out, right? But if you've been watching the replay, come back to me. Okay? Because again, if you get nothing out of this workshop, if you get this down, it's everything. Right? There are people in your world that know you and love you. And if they only knew you were on the job search, or if they only knew you wanted their help, you could create miracles. Now, here's the thing, folks. Some of you are like doing this like one-off fishing, right? You're like, and that's hard because you got to get the right bait on the right fish at the right depth in the right place. I mean, oh my goodness, boy, that's a lot, right? What we want to do is we want to filter the effing ocean, right? We want to filter the ocean. We want to have a system around this. That's how you get hired fast, right? It's one of the things when we coach clients, we help them do, right? And remember that asking for help makes you strong, not weak. Brene Brown has taught us that vulnerability leads to trust. You want to have a system, no more one-offs. All right, guys, we're in the home stretch. Here we go. Tactic number 8, interviews. Who wants to know the best interview advice in the world? I'm going to give it to you anyway because I'm willing to offend in the name of service, whether you want to hear it or not. Here it is. You may want to write this down. Some of you go into interviews and you're like, oh, I hope I get the right answers, right? Hey, Jennifer just booked a coaching call. Way to go, Jennifer, right? Some of you are like, I hope I get the right answers. Okay. I want to suggest to you that when you go into an interview, they're not interviewing you to get information. Basically, what they're interviewing you for is to determine if they could trust you. Right? If we had like a special like translator, like a universal translator, they'd be like, well, tell me about yourself, V. And they would go, blah, 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 blah. And the translator would say, can we trust you? Right? And Peter would say, well, or they'd ask Peter, they'd be like, tell us about a time you've made a mistake. And the translator, blah, 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 and it would say, can we trust you, Peter? Right? Every question is, can we trust you? But they're not going to say that because of society, and that would be weird. Right. And even if they did, you said, yeah, you can trust me, they wouldn't believe it because, again, people believe what you show them more than what you tell them. Okay. So basically, they're asking questions as sort of a veil to suss out if they can trust you. So what you want to do is rather than answer their questions, don't do that. Don't answer their questions. What you want to do is use their questions as an excuse to give answers and tell stories that build trust. And you do that through vulnerability, and you do that through making them feel seen, heard, and understood. That's how you crush interviews. They won't even remember the question they asked. They'll just know that answer that just came out of your face made them feel safe. That's how you crush it on interviews, right? Right? They don't even care about the questions. Okay, final tactic. This is tactic number 9. You guys are awesome. So many of you stayed with us, right? Offers, right? Now, some of you, when it comes to applying, you're like, I'll see like, well, how is it for you? Do you apply to a lot of jobs? And you're like, no, I don't apply to a lot of jobs because if I get an offer, then my family might have to move to Connecticut and and it goes off into the sunset. Stop. Realize that 1, you don't have to worry if you're qualified for a job. They will have an opinion. Okay, they'll have an opinion. And 2, you don't even have to worry if you want a job. unless and until you get the offer, which is a great problem to have, because unless and until you get the offer, it's just you kind of negotiating with yourself. It's perfectly natural that you might think about it, and it's 100% optional, which means instead of going through potential opportunities thinking, am I qualified for this? Is this a job I would want? Don't use that filter. Use this filter. What's possible for these people? And how could I help them reach that possibility? You go through job boards or whatever, you're networking, and you ask that question, game over, folks. Game over. Remember, you want to apply from a place of service. All right, folks. So write this down, right? These are all the things we've talked about. Write this down. You guys have been such a great crowd. I do have an invitation for you here in a second. And before we get to that, I just want to show you another example. One of the things that we do when we coach people is we have a weekly group session. It's called the Career Power Hour. It's awesome. Sometimes things happen live on the Career Power Hour. It happened not too long ago with one of our clients named Kay. She was just on the call and this happened. So let's show them what happened to Kay. Path, man. Keep on the path. All right. We're getting a bigger crowd now. It's so nice. Tell me who else has something to share. Yeah, Kay, talk to us.
So I went off camera a few minutes ago because I just got an offer from my dream job and my dream company. So real time, it happened just now. So on, thanks, Eric.
Yeah, and all now look, Kay did the work, right? It wasn't all just like perfect, right? She had ups and downs, and she put these tactics and strategies into use, and yeah, it was awesome. So look, I really want to acknowledge everybody who's been here today. We're gonna take some questions. I know we have some good ones in the wings here, and you know, some of you are hearing this stuff and you're like, this is awesome. I'm gonna go do this on my own. Okay, like I hope, right? Others of you are like, holy crap, I've been waking up every day, like waiting to hear something different, for something to change in my job search, for something to be different than it was yesterday or last week or last month or last year, right? I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for something different. And I just invite you to consider, what if this is the thing you've been waiting for? So it's part of the reason, like, as part of like my coaching practice, like we offer coaching calls, right? Complimentary coaching calls. Like, now look, folks, I got to let you know, I have a lot of great coaches on my team, right? A lot of great coaches, and they're the ones that run these calls, and they're really awesome, right? They've worked in a lot of different industries, with people from every different level, CEOs, you know, directors, managers, coordinators, you name it, salespeople. I mean, if I had my act together, I'd show the list here, right? And we do complimentary coaching calls. So a number of you have already booked time, which is awesome. And if you haven't, like, what are you waiting for? Free coaching call. So if that's something that would help you, like, please make it happen. And if you're like, you already know what you're doing and, you know, you kind of want to keep doing what you've been doing, that's okay too, right? Free coaching call. Yay, free coaching call. So I hope to have a chance, you know, to see you in our program. Okay, so we have some questions, and I always wind up doing this and I forget to make my face big. So this time I want you to see the full planetary girth of my face here. Okay, so here we've got a question from Christian. How about follow-up after rejection, in which they said you were great, but they went with more experience? So often, Christian, here's what I will say. They're liars. They are liars. There's only one reason that they chose the other person over you. I hope you're open to a little tough coaching. And this isn't just for you, Christian. It's for everybody. They trusted the other person more than you. That's it. That's it. And that may have been nothing to do with you, right? It may have been that they already knew the person, right? So I'm not saying it's your fault, but the only reason they choose somebody over you is they trust that person more. That's what it boils down to. It wasn't experience, or if it was, that was just the indicator, right? So they didn't trust you, and it's not your fault. And they're liars, right? You never have to ask after an interview, well, can I get feedback? Because the real answer would be like, yeah, thanks for coming in. We didn't trust you as much as we trusted the other person, right? Like that's, yeah, you're welcome, Christian. Like that's the answer always. So, and by the way, they're never going to say that. And they're often going to they're probably never going to say anything because they're worried about getting sued, right? So, they're worried about liability, right? HR people, no offense to HR people or recruiters, but they are professionally trained assassins at keeping lawsuits away, right? And recruiters, even more fun, their whole mission is to get a commission. Which means, where you see those scary things like, don't contact us. The last thing they want you is to contact a hiring manager because then they become irrelevant, right? So go ahead and contact that hiring manager, right? Because make them feel seen, heard, and understood. Okay, next question. I know we've got some good ones. What do you do when they ghost you? So this can happen in a lot of different ways, William. Thanks for the question. Right? Sometimes you just apply and hear nothing back. That sucks. There's where follow-up can be really powerful. Sometimes you'll go into an interview and they're like, William, you're the best thing ever. We love you. We'll be in touch. And then a day goes by and a week goes by and a month goes by and you never hear from them again. Right? You never hear from them again. Ken, I want to come back to your comment, right? We never hear from them again. Okay. And so the opportunity is when you're in touch with them, you create clear agreements. So it would sound something like, hey, William, thanks for the interview. So William, let's say I interviewed with you. Hey, William, this interview's been great. Can I ask you something? And you, William, would say, yeah. What's our next steps? And you might say, oh, well, we'll be in touch. I'd be like, oh, love that. Love that you'll be in touch. William, can I ask you something? You'd say, yeah. What do you mean? And you'd be like, huh? What do you mean you'll be in touch? Oh, we'll be in touch next week. Oh, fantastic. Can I ask you one more thing? Yeah. How will you be in touch? When will you be in touch next week? Right? How will we handle it if you're not in touch? Right? And you want to show them that you want to show them that you're not somebody that deals in expectations, you deal in agreements, as the great Steve Chandler taught us. Okay? All right. So I just want to detour here. Kent says, I am a great fit and had 3 interviews. Okay. So Kent, I want to challenge you here. See where you say I'm a great fit? You don't want to say that because it's not up to you. It's up to them. And that's all about you. And even if you are a great fit, you want to leave the space for that to be their idea. And I say that with a lot of love, Kent. I know you're talking. I think you're signed up for a coaching call. So we're going to talk to you about this. Okay. So maybe, and it sucks that they ghosted you, right? It was relisted requiring a different degree and stuff. So you could reach out to them again. And again, rather than talking about how you're such a great fit, talk about what's possible for them. You might be surprised. And by the way, don't reach out to the HR people, reach out to the CEO. How about that? All right, next question, right? Next questions. Okay. Oh, we're getting all sorts of good ones. V, yes, we are going to have a replay. I'll probably be messaging people on LinkedIn. So if you want it, let me know. You're so welcome, Julie. And I am mindful of the time. So look, folks, those of you who have to run, come talk to us if you're not already scheduled. Okay, what other questions? Can we speak about age discrimination? I sure can, Lydia. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to say there's not isms out there. Ageism, sexism, racism, a whole bunch of isms, and it sucks and it's illegal and it happens. And at the end of the day, the reason they're going to hire you is because of who you are, not in spite of it. Is there ageism out there? Absolutely. Is that the reason they're going to hire you or not hire you? No. The reason they're going to hire you is because they trust you. So here's the math on this. Let's say I'm worried about my age. And so the first thing I do on my resume is hide my age. What message does that send? It sends the message, I don't trust you, employer. So what's that going to do for the trust that they're going to have in me? It's probably going to lower it. So it's actually like shooting yourself in the foot. If the reason they're going to trust you, or the reason they're going to hire you is that they trust you, by hiding your age, you're actually screaming, I don't trust you. So it's probably one of the worst things you could do. Sorry. And if that hasn't been working for you, Lydia, now we know why. Okay. Mindful of the time, guys. I know we have so much more questions. Approve it. This is going to be our last question. And if you have other questions, you haven't already booked a coaching call, book a coaching call and you can ask your questions then. Approve it. Can you elaborate more on the tactic points on environment and safety? Yeah. So you want to make sure that your environment is optimized, right? So basically optimize for your safety. Apurva. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Names are important, so please forgive me, right? You want to optimize your environment to make you feel safe, because when you feel safe, it's going to be easier for you to make others feel safe, which means that it's going to be easier to build trust. You're welcome, Kent, right? It's going to be easier to build trust. You're welcome, Shirley, right? So that's what you want to do, right? You want to optimize your environment so that it's going to support your job search, not the other way around, so that you can give them safety, because when you give them safety, you build trust. And when you build trust, you get hired. Look, guys, really want to acknowledge everybody who was on this call. You guys have been a super awesome crowd. You're so welcome, Jim. And really hope to have a chance to talk to you. If you haven't already booked time with us, go ahead and do that. And regardless, like, your job search, just know that like this too shall pass. You don't have to do this on your own. There's nothing really fair or logical about any of this. And I'm so cheering for all of you. So really acknowledge you, my friends. And again, if we didn't get to your questions, come talk to us and we can answer them there. Okay, guys, have a great, great day. See you soon.